All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to a Friday episode of Talking Buffalo Podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. I am your host, Patrick Moran. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, whether it's the audio side, the video side. I appreciate you all. Today is Friday. This is feeling a little bit weird to me. I was about to say I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, podcaster, sports writer, sports media personality, Joe Yerdon, which is the case because Joe is with me pretty much every week. However, this is Friday. The
Yeah.
schedules were really screwy this week here. I got my
Mhm.
messages on Facebook trying to shut that off right off the bat here. Anyway, schedules, there was just conflict stuff going on Monday. So we kind of pushed this episode back until Friday. But I do have my man with me. Joe, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a busy week, man. There's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff going on. You hit like the off season, well, quote unquote off season, and you think like, things are going to slow down. No, no, no. Things never slow down. Especially now that I'm like doing national writing stuff. Like stuff is very much not slowed down at all. So which is good. Like
I
don't
was
get me
gonna
wrong.
say you're a sports writer, man. You know
Yeah.
that shit.
Oh yeah.
Nothing ever. It's never ever
No.
slows down in sports. We're gonna
No.
talk it shortly. Anyway, Sabres news this week. Everybody knows now Kyle Okposo re-signed for the Sabres for another year. We're going to discuss him in a few minutes here. I'm labeling this the Kyle Okposo appreciation episode. So we're gonna talk our guy up, some other hockey stuff too in just a minute. Before we get started, though, I gotta say, rest in peace, Tina Turner, one
Yes.
of the great music icons of our time. She passed away on Wednesday at the age of 83. And I'll tell you, man, being my age, growing up as a younger teenager in the mid 80s,
Mhm.
when Tina kind of, she had her music stardom for a while and then kind of disappeared for a while. And then she came back. One of the all time great music comebacks, that Private Dancer album in the mid 80s, man. What an album. You had Private Dancer and you had Better Be Good to Me, Let's Stay Together. And then, of course, the biggest hit was What's Love Got to Do. You know what's funny too, Joe? I looked this up and Aaron Quinn I have on every week, and he's a big music guy, but he's significantly younger than me. Like I'm 80s and then the 90s. Aaron's more like mid to late 90s into the 2000s, where we know the bulk of our music. And
Mhm.
one of the things we've argued about is, in my opinion, and I've said this before, I think 1984 is like the greatest year for music, maybe ever. And he's
Mhm.
like 2000 or some shit like that, or 96, 97. I don't remember, but I looked it up because her song, What's Love Got to Do with It, monster hit. Dude, this was the number 2 song at the year-end Billboard chart for 1984. Let me run by some songs to you, okay,
Mhm.
real quick here. These were all the number 1 hits from 1984, and I guarantee you, if you don't know all these well, you're gonna know most of these well, okay? Say, that was Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney.
Yep.
That was number 1 for 2 weeks. Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes. That was
Mhm.
number 1 for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Karma Chameleon by Culture Club. That was number 1 for 3 weeks. And then you had Jump by Van Halen, one of the great American rock songs, in my opinion, anyway, of all time. That was number 1 for 5 weeks. Footloose by Kenny Loggins from the movie soundtrack. That was number 1 for a few weeks. Against All Odds by Phil Collins.
Mhm.
Hello by Lionel Richie, a mega hit.
Yep.
Let's Hear It for the Boy by Denise Williams. That was from the
Oh, man.
Footloose soundtrack. I'm sure you remember that.
That was on that soundtrack?
Yeah, that was on that
Oh, man.
soundtrack, man.
I didn't I was out to lunch on that one being on that soundtrack. I just knew it. I knew it as a standalone hit, though.
Yeah. Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. That was number 1 for a couple weeks. The Reflex by Duran Duran, number 1 for 2 weeks.
Solid.
When Doves Cry by Prince was number 1 for 5 weeks, and that was the number 1 song of 1984.
Wow.
Then it was Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr. I'm
Yep.
sure you know that. And then Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It? 3 weeks at number 1. After that, I'll fly through the rest of these. Missing You by John Waite. I know you know that song.
Mhm.
Let's Go Crazy by Prince. I Just Called to Say I Love You, Stevie Wonder. Caribbean Queen by Billy Ocean. I love that song. In fact, I play that on the jukebox every time I go to a bar right now, actually. Wake Me Up Before You Go by Wham. Some silly ass pop, songs from the 80s, but that was a big song. Out of Touch by Hall & Oates. And then last but not least, to end the year, Like a Version by Madonna. Point being, 1984, what a killer year for music between the song titles, these artists, and in a year with so many, iconic songs, Tina Turner was right there at number 2. Just an amazing album. What a great career.
Yeah.
What a great person,
Yeah. I saw a clip from, I think it was 60 Minutes yesterday, from back in the day, where it was Mike Wallace was visiting with her at her like estate in France and whatever, like her house, and showing off like all this gorgeous stuff that she was having done. And it's like, right on the Riviera, like just an unbelievable setup for anybody to live at.
Sure.
And they're standing there like in her house, and he's like, "You think you deserve all this?" And she goes, "I deserve even more." And it's like, yeah, after what, everything she had been through with Ike and like all the stuff with her, with her career. I mean, she was an incredible singer and dancer before. Like she was just a powerhouse. And then like just kind of went away for a while. And like all the, the stuff with Ike was such a horrible thing to deal with. And he was such a shithead about everything. He was just a total piece of garbage.
Probably the most famous woman beater of all time, and infamous, I should say, not famous. I don't want to give him credit. Infamous, notorious for sure. And for a while, that's what she was connected to. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, but then I mean, like she comes through with it, with that Monster album. She winds up in the Mad Max movie, and like just a complete career.
Sure.
I don't know if it's like, I don't know if resurgence is the right word, but just like a complete, like just.
I think it is.
Like owning of like, she's like, no, I'm the star. Pay attention to me. I'm the person. And it was just like, whoa, holy crap. And like, she just owned, and it was, she was just everywhere. And like, every time she showed up in something, and like every time she was doing, every time she covered Proud Mary, man, she burned the house down, dude. It was just such an unbelievable performer.
Sure. And you know what? A lot of those artists that I named during that iconic 1984 year, significantly younger than Tina. I believe Tina was like in her, like maybe early or mid 40s when that album came out, man. And yeah, dude, it's just so great. And I'll tell you, a couple years later, Simply the Best, or technically it's called The Best. That might be my favorite song of hers. I think it aged the best. The Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you watched that show when it was on a few years ago. That was a big part of that show. They sang it a couple times, and it was really cool. But yeah, man, what an iconic career, a great person. So a big loss to the pop culture and music world this week. I'm reminded, this is completely off topic here from what we were just talking about, but I just remembered. So last week, you were on Tuesday, like normal. Do you remember I spent probably 15, 20 minutes talking about this extreme fasting diet? Remember how we talked about that last week? Well, that didn't even last that day. Not because I was unmotivated.
It sounded really unhealthy.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, man, I put something on Twitter after we had our conversation, and I got kind of dragged. I don't want to say dragged a little bit. I mean, there were a couple of people that would say, come on, what kind of dummy are you? But a lot of people were talking about, how unhealthy it potentially could be anyway. And there were a couple people that are like, hey, good luck. And I've done it before and this and that. But yeah, anyway, not sustainable too. Like, even if you do it, even if you manage to do it, all you're doing is kind of like taking a little bit of a break. That's all. It's like people who drink all the time. Then they're like, oh, I'm not going to drink for 30 days. Just, you prove that you could go 30 days without drinking or whatever. And then on day 31, you start getting bombed all over again, and you kind of make up for lost time. So I kind of realized that quickly. But now I am doing something that I do feel sustainable. I'm kind of moderating a little bit. I'm doing a intermittent fasting now. Like, I'm not eating anything after 8.
Okay.
5 days a week. Weekends, have at it within reason, but from 8 p.m. to noon the next day. So 16 straight hours, nothing but water or black coffee. No cream, no sugar. That's it. Because those are the only thing that you could have, water or black coffee, that won't break your intermittent fasting. And then the biggest thing is, and we've talked about this on the show so many times, man. I've struggled with pop so much. I have not had a sip of pop at all. Probably 11 days, 12 days now. So trying to do something that's a little more sustainable than what we talked about last week. We'll see how it works out, man. Feeling pretty good though, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I do feel pretty good right now.
That's good. I mean, listen, feeling good is the important part with any of those kinds of things,
Sure.
because I can tell you right now, I've been feeling like garbage late for, other reasons, but like, it's so tough to try to just kind of like go about every day and you just don't feel great. Right? You just kind of feeling like, whether it's, you feel like you're out of shape or you're tired or
Mhm.
you're just eating like garbage or whatever the deal is, or maybe it's a combination of all of them and you're just kind of like blah all the
Yeah.
time. And it's just, as long as you're feeling good, then that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like I said, it's about, I think anyway, trying to find something that's sustainable. So if you're watching this, listening to this, and you're thinking about trying to do something, don't do anything extreme, anything radical. Do something that you think could be sustainable over the long run. So many people do something short term and it's just not realistic to maintain it. And then they just go back to whatever it was they were doing. Now, again, like I said, with Joe being on Friday this past week, I had Stevie Johnson with me in our live from Imperial series. And I got to tell you, that was a hell of a lot of fun. If you didn't listen to that, didn't watch that, go back and I think that dropped on Tuesday. I taped it over last weekend. Stevie Johnson, one of the most popular Buffalo Bills. And I'll tell you, Joe, and then I want to ask you a question here too, because the way he interacted with fans, and I've met Stevie before. This wasn't my first time sitting down with him, and it was our first interview, but it's not the first time that I've met him and hung out
Mhm.
with him a little bit. But anyway, he walked into the restaurant. I talked a little bit about this with Aaron. He walked into the restaurant immediately. People knew who he was. He's so recognizable. You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean? Very recognizable. One of the more popular players of this century for the Buffalo Bills. A couple people started chanting Stevie right away, but you could tell. And he was promoting him and his a co-author who's also a good friend of mine. They got a new children's book out,
Mhm.
centered around Freddie Jackson. Anyway, we do the show, do the interview. Afterwards, people start lining up, get their pictures and autographs, buy a book. And I was just blown away looking at Stevie, the way he smiles and he interacts with fans. He doesn't just, you've been around enough athletes covering them. You know how a lot, some of them are, they're like, hey, they're polite. Hey,
Right.
how you doing? Good to see you. Maybe a little fist bump. Stevie ain't like that, man. Stevie will sit there and conversate with people, ask you a question. My buddy who you've met and my friend Ryan, who has
Mhm.
cancer, he was there and I introduced Stevie to him, told what was going on. I talked to him for 10 minutes, little kid. I had a group of friends there. He's taking pictures with them. Little kids. He has a green Bills hat. I'm going to pull it back up here. You can see it on, and if you're watching this on the video, you can't really see it because of the quality of the photo, but there's a lot of writing on that hat. And what I noticed was a little kid would ask Stevie for his autograph and he would sign it for him, of course. But then Stevie would take his hat off and give it to the kid in a marker and he'd have a kid sign it. And then he would put it on his head. So he actually has a hat that has some kids' autographs. Anyway, my point was, couldn't have been a more chill, down to earth guy, man. Just you
Mhm.
could tell he's got a lot of gratitude for fans. He knows what the fans have given him, what this city has given him, and he's giving back. And I just think it's awesome. Wanted to ask you, somebody who's covered a lot of hockey, at least anyway, for sure. For a couple of your favorites, like a couple of guys that whether they're your favorite interviews that you just like talking to, or guys that you've come across in the league, whether it's players, coaches, whoever, that you could just tell they're really good with fans, very respectful towards them, really good with kids, stuff like that. Like, are there any favorites of yours that kind of stand out?
Yeah. Jason Palmaville sticks out to me.
Yeah.
It's just like a really genuine, nice guy. I mean, he was, I caught him on the second time around with the Sabres here. I wasn't here back in, 05, 06, 07, back in
Right.
those days. But but when he came back here after they reacquired him, it was very nice to just to get to know him. And, you get to talk to a guy like that. And, he's, when it's the second time around in a place where he was already beloved, he was already a guy fans loved and everything. It was just very cool to see. And he was always, even, a couple of times I've, talked with him when he was with Minnesota, just seeing, what the kind of guy that he is and just, how, kind of down to earth he is. And, he's, very dedicated family guy and, always very, very chill with fans and very nice. Like
Hmm.
he's always stood out to me as as somebody that I'm just kind of like, it's like, yeah, that guy gets it. Like, I understand. There's a lot more guys like that in hockey, I think, where
I think so too.
I think guys there's a lot more humility in hockey, I think, with in a lot of cases, certainly with older players. I think younger guys, like, they're still trying to figure out life in a lot of cases. I think a lot of guys are um, like if they're 18, 19 years old playing in the NHL, they're just kind of like, whoa, okay, this is a lot. There's a lot going on here. I don't really
Right.
have like a grasp of like what, of what the life is about or what it can be at that point. But yeah, certainly Jason's one of those guys. Pat LaFontaine's another guy. I not really seeing how he is around fans too much, but like anytime I've seen him around with fans, he's got so much appreciation for how much fans take to him, and the appreciation and the love they've got for a guy like that, and having opportunities to talk with him in the past. He's just a very affable, happy to talk about anything guy. Like,
Yeah.
just a really great guy in that respect. And even some of the sillier guys in their careers, I mean, I say silly in a very kind way, but like a guy like John Scott, where it's he's known for beating guys up and being a tough guy and all that, but also like very funny.
Yeah.
Has a great sense of humor, just, and accepts that, like, he's like, yeah, I know what my job in the league was, but he's like, but I was one of the best to do it, and I'm good enough to be in the NHL. So, like, if you want to talk crap about me, okay, have fun, but also one of the best players in the world. So take that for what it's worth. But he was a guy who always was very proud of what he did, but very humble about being able to get there. Like, I think there's something to be said for guys that it's knowing that you're able to be in that role, but also not having to brag about it either. I think there's a lot to be said about that. And like, I think about Stevie and like how I guess complicated things got for him here. Like he had that, the game against, what was it? Where he's blaming God for
Pittsburgh.
his hand. Yeah, it was a Pittsburgh game, right?
He owns it too.
Oh yeah. I mean, and like he said it at the time, but it's like, that's a guy who cares. That's a guy who cares a lot about, like, what he was doing, trying to help the team win and all that. And of course, you get mad about things. You're going to say sometimes you say something where it's just kind of like, dude, where were you going with that one? Like, what's up? But he always loved playing here. Like, guys like that, where they just love playing here. And like, they, the business is the business. So it is what it is. But I mean, geez, he's the guy that coined the Mafia moniker, man. Like,
he's the reason.
He's the Godfather, man.
He's the reason. We kind of talked about that on the show earlier this week. He's indirectly responsible for the term Bills Mafia. Ain't nobody ever saying Bills fans or let's go Bills Nation. Nobody says that shit. It is 100% Bills Mafia, and is directly related to what happened with Stevie. And to your point, he really did come to love Buffalo. This is a California kid, man.
Mm-hmm.
Came to Buffalo, spent 6 years in Buffalo, and ended his career in San Francisco. And he talked about this again on the show. You would think he'd be happy to be playing back home, family and friends. He did not want to leave Buffalo. He was he missed it. But anyway, you could kind of tell the genuine people. And I mean, I know you know this, like from the posers. You ever watch Tin Cup? Remember the movie Tin Cup?
Been a while, but I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the character's name was David Sims. Don Johnson, the guy who played David Sims, the golfer. Whenever the cameras were on him, he was always cool and smiling and friendly and signing shit. And then there wasn't a camera on him. He was kind of a douche. I'm not going to name any athletes, but
right.
I know you've come across plenty of them. They'll do the right thing when there's reporters around, or when there's a camera rolling or something like that, but they're not as much genuine when they don't need to be. Stevie Johnson's not one of those guys. And like, to your point, Pominville, Pat LaFontaine, they're just genuinely good people. So anyway, that was fun. Next Friday on this show, back to live from Imperial, I'm going to have Elena Getzenberg from ESPN.com, covers the Buffalo Bills for her. So she'll be on. We're taping this. I need to mention this because we're about to get into something here. We're taping this Thursday night, shortly before Vegas plays Dallas. Well, Florida's going to the Stanley Cup. We know that shit. Florida's in the Cup. They swept Carolina, and Vegas is one game away. And by the time you're watching or listening to this, there's a good chance, or at least a fair chance anyway, that Stanley Cup may be set. Even if they lose tonight, though, it's looking pretty good for Vegas. So We kind of joked about it a little bit throughout the playoffs, but now it's coming to fruition, man. Sam Reinhart versus Jack Eichel for the Stanley Cup, Joe, man. What do you think?
I'm very entertained by it.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it's the inside stuff, the inside, stuff amongst reporters and whatnot that makes it very entertaining for me. But also that, I think people here can very much live with it because they see the direction the Sabres are headed in. So it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. This is what had to happen.
Good point. Imagine if they were terrible. Imagine if the Sabres
were
so
they were so
shitty.
bad. This would be
you had to watch this.
Oh God, this would people would be angry, losing their mind, shooting their TVs out, throwing the TV off the balcony, all that stuff. Just because it's just like, yeah, great, yeah, we're still stinking. These guys are in the Cup final. That bullshit, like that kind of thing. But it's not that. Sabres are going in a direction that I think everybody wanted them to be in, and honestly, for Jack and Sam specifically, not to mention all the other ex-Sabres that are going to be involved in that Cup final, it's the direction they had to go in too. I think we've been saying all through these playoffs and hell, all season long. There is a guy that's on the Panthers right now that you're like, you wish the Sabres didn't give up on. It's Brandon Montour, but I mean, that's a whole other thing. It's Jack and Sam. Those are the big things. And, it's Jack's playing great for Vegas. Sam's played great for Florida, the whole playoffs. I mean, I don't know. I'm happy for those guys. I know it's rare for anybody to be like, well, happy for them, but like, good for them, man. Like the fans know all too well. They went through a lot of shit here, like a lot. And now they've come through it, and now they're about to play each other in a Stanley Cup final. That's crazy.
Look, I'm not going to lie, man. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I remember many conversations we had on this podcast when it came to Jack Eichel. And as that divorce became apparent, I took Jack Eichel's side a lot. I was like, well, what do you expect? He's sick of losing, year after year. The team around him, the coaches, all this stuff. Now, I did come to kind of, I guess the Sabres fan, has learned to despise him some. I'm not huge on the way he's, I don't want to say he hasn't really said many bad things about Buffalo, minus the one time, he came here and the Sabres won and he didn't react very well to it. Whatever, right, man. We're all human, Anyway,
will do that,
Sure. And I don't want to be a hypocrite because I did defend him a lot during this divorce process, but ain't gonna lie, assuming that this is the Stanley Cup and I don't like Florida, I'm gonna root for Florida. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely gonna root for Florida, man. There's no question about it. It still blows my mind too that God damn it, man. This one regulation win. I'll tell you, Joe, a couple, how long has the playoffs been going on for now? What, a month? Was it a month or something like that? I don't know. Something like that.
A month and a half, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, a little more than a month. So a little more than a month ago. So we had at my second job at a restaurant, we had a playoff pool. And it was 16 people, and you pay your money, and you drew a team out of a hat. And it was quite simple. Whoever the team is that you picked, they win the Stanley Cup, you win the money. Not a lot of skill involved in that. Right. But anyway, I drew Edmonton, so whatever.
Oof.
But I remember the kid who drew Florida. They snuck into the playoffs. And they were facing the Boston Bruins in the first round. I'm like, that's a good way to donate because it was $100. I was like, that's a solid way to just donate $100. And this kid's 4 wins away from winning. What is it? Because I'm pretty sure
if it's 100 apiece, then it's
12. It's 1,200. Yeah, so it's 1,200 and 400 for Stanley Cup winner and runner up. So he's 4 wins away from winning 1,200, and he's already quadrupled his money at worst. So
yeah.
What a run, ain't it? God, you want to talk about a team that just where lightning struck at the absolute perfect time. This is just nuts, man.
Yeah. It's and we'll talk about Kyle in a little bit here, but he was asked today about, the whole thing with Buffalo and, finishing, 2 points back of a playoff spot and seeing Florida go on this run. And Kyle made the point that I'll pat myself on the back here, say this. He's like, Florida's been playing playoff games for the last 2 months now, going back into the end of the regular season. He goes, it's, that they beat Boston, it was like, yeah, well, they've been playing must-win games for a while now. So yeah, I'm not. He's like, I'm not surprised to see them having this kind of success. And I'm like, me too, Kyle. That's what I've been saying all along. And people's like, whoa, is this a stunning turn of events? I'm like, not really. Like teams that have like Boston hadn't had to play a game that meant anything for like since the beginning of March.
Sure.
Honestly, like when they clinched the playoff spot and then they won the President's Trophy like a week later, it was like, well, they don't have anything to do for the next forever. And the next important game they play is going to be game 1 of the playoffs. And then whoops, they weren't ready for the playoffs. Florida was very prepared for the playoffs. So, but yeah, listen, there's something to be said about being able to get into the playoffs in that kind of spot where you've been battle tested going in. Like I think the usual thought is that teams in that spot are going to be gassed by the time they get in because it's like, oh, geez, they've been fighting tooth and nail for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long. And I'm like, well, the other team they're playing against may have been squared away for weeks, the same amount of time, but they haven't played anything amounting to a real game in forever. So, they for every thought that the team coming in that last spot is gas, the other team's coming in very ill prepared. So it's kind of like who can get caught up first or catch fire first. And Florida caught fire and just stayed on fire. And there's a lot of teams a lot of past cup winners that are getting compared to them right now. And I think there's something to be said about each of those comparisons. A lot of people are saying like the 2012 Kings where those Kings were the 8th seed in the West, but it was like that they were like a fake 8th seed because they wound up in the 8th spot like in the last like couple of games of the season. They were actually like 5th, and then they slipped to 8th, and then it was like, oh right, okay, well they're actually really good. So good luck to whoever's the number 1 seed, and then the Kings just mowed everybody down. And Jonathan Quick was amazing, and that's like, well, Florida, kind of a fake number 8 seed. They were a good team that played like garbage for 3 months of the year, and then Bobrovsky turned back into the guy who won a Vezina twice before in the playoffs, and now away they go. And it's like it's like Pittsburgh a few years too, when what was it like Matt Murray or Fleury or one of them got them into the playoffs, and then the other guy took over like in the first round, and then they rolled, and that I think it was Matt Murray twice just kind of carried them through. But it's something else, man. But I mean, geez, if Vegas locks it down, if they get it locked down tonight or game 5 or whatever happens, Vegas is going to win that series. I don't care what anybody says,
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of role for them too, just in a different spot. Just that they won their division, and they were at the top of the league for most of the year.
All right, I'm back with Joe Yerdon from Noted Hockey and, of course, Bleacher Report, Main Estate Podcast as well. All right, so Kyle Okposo re-signs with the Buffalo Sabres 1 year. I think it's like $2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Had a Zoom press conference on Thursday morning, and I watched, and it was pretty emotional. And in fact, there's a clip, and I'm going to play this clip for people right now, or whether you're watching on the YouTube side or if you're listening to it. It's like a 1:20 clip, but it's Okposo describing coming back and some of the factors that went in. So let me play the clip, and then right after that, I'll get your reaction to Kyle. These are his own words here on Thursday morning.
Sorry. So my son Odie was the first one to find out, and I got a call, and I was in my bedroom. I was about to put him to bed, and saying that the deal was done. And so he comes out and he just brushed his teeth, and I looked at him and I told him that I'm going to come back and play another year. And his reaction was worth it. And sometimes I forget how much it means to them, to especially my older 2 kids. And I told Ellie about 20 minutes later, she was driving back from getting ready for a dance recital, and I went for a walk, and her and Danielle pulled up in the car, and she I told them, and then when I heard them driving away, I heard her scream so loud because they were just so happy and excited, and so it definitely is a huge factor in my decision making, your family, because you're not just thinking about yourself. Um, you're thinking about them and what this means to them as well.
So some really genuine, heartfelt testimonial there from Kyle. Talk about his family playing, a part in
Mhm.
his decision, and especially when he's talking about his son. That's some good shit, man. What do you think when you see something like that?
It's that's who Kyle is, man. Like he's such a family guy. I mean, he's got what 4 kids now, and his son Odie. He says Odie, it's Odin, which great. Love that he names his kid Odin. It's so fun. But we see Odin around the rink sometimes, and it's every kid whose dad is playing in the NHL. They come to the rink and they just love being there. It's a whole new like kind of playground for them. They get to kind of bop around and check things out and get to see their dad play hockey and doing all that. And when you're at his age, like he's mid-30s, he knows the career's coming winding down and whatnot, and being able to see his career through his kids' eyes, like that's a really cool thing. Because when they're really young, you don't really get that sense. If like mom's
Sure,
holding them up in the glass and they're like patting, like that's really cute and everything.
sure,
But when they're old enough to really get a handle on it and kind of be around it and know what's going on, know the game and all that, like he's in that spot now where he's able to like see it right firsthand and how cool it is for them to see him doing that, and like what a I guess it's it's a I guess it's a source of pride really for him, because he gets his kids get to see that and how excited they are that he gets to keep playing. Like that's so cool. Like that's such a cool thing for him. And like, yeah, why wouldn't you get choked up about that? Like that's such a cool thing to be able to be able to have those kinds of moments and to keep it going. And like, he lives here. Like he lives in the Buffalo area now. And like they made, him and his family made this their home the last few years. So like when it was the end of the season and he basically said, he's like, listen, I'm either coming back here or I'm not coming back, period. So that was an easy signing to get done. It was an easy thing to get taken care of. And I'm glad Kyle's coming back, because he's the effect that he has on the guys in that room is such a big deal, because I mean, he's kind of rare in the room that he is such a big family guy. I mean, there's a couple of guys that do have kids. Tage has got a kid now. Trying to think of who else. I'm struggling here. Like, I mean, but there's not a lot of guys that have families, but they get to
sure.
see him be in that role, and like what that's like. That's a huge leadership point, because I mean, he kind of jokes with him, being like, well, he's kind of like the dad of the team because he's older than everybody. It's like, well, yeah, but also like he's the coolest dude in the room too.
Uh,
And like he's cool and he's got the family and he's able to like be the focus and the lightning rod of pride for that team. So it's really cool. It's really nice to see that.
I was yeah, I really liked that clip, and I liked everything he had to say, and I really come to like Kyle Okposo a lot. That's why I said this episode's like a Kyle Okposo like appreciation episode. And I'll
Mhm,
tell you, man. So he's going to be going into his 8th year now with the Sabres, and I remember when he signed. It
mhm,
was the 2016 offseason. He signed a big contract, 7 years, 42 million. And he was coming out. He had 3 20+ goal seasons with the Islanders. He was a coveted free agent,
yeah.
at that time. And I can't remember who was first, but he was like the second or third ranked forward on most charts for free agency. I
Mhm,
remember that very well. First 3 years with the Sabres, I'm looking right now to say 19, 15, and 14 goals. Didn't score a lot though, as much as I think fans thought. And people were probably looking at him as a top line guy and a big time, a guy who's gonna probably score 30 to 35 goals. It didn't happen. And I remember at the time that bus label getting thrown on him. Terrible free agent signing. And I remember, terrible contract, untradeable because of his contract. And of course, injury issues, concussion, stuff like that. But I'll tell you, man, the last couple of years, when I realized what type of player he is and what kind of leader he is, I started to become a lot more impressed with him. October of 2022, the Sabres named him captain, replacing Jack Eichel. Looking right now, 20th full-time captain in franchise history. And I read, in fact, doing a little bit of prep for the show today, Joe. I read the article when he was named captain, and Cousins had a pretty good quote in that article. It said, he's the life of the Sabres. Dylan said that in 2022. So like I said, man, maybe I was excited to get him here at the time because he was such a coveted free agent, but then the stat sheet didn't look great. Like the offensive production wasn't anything to write home about. Turned sour on him. I remember a lot of people on Twitter, quite frankly. I mean, I'm not the only one here, folks.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people felt this way. It sucks. He's stuck here. You can't trade him. Buy him out. I've heard that. I remember that a couple of. What would it cost, the Sabres to buy him out? How would that affect the cap? I remember a lot of that talk, but I want to talk about a guy, a feel-good story who's really come around, man. I think it's Kyle Okposo in this case.
Yeah, and a lot of what happened with him was health related too. A lot of the struggles and all off and point production and all that. Like a lot of that was because of a lot of the stuff that he went through, like a year or two into that, where things got really scary. Things got really scary for him, and there was a lot of worry of whether or not his career was going to be over prematurely, and everything that went into that. And then he came through a lot of darkness there. There was a lot of dark moments, dark, scary moments. And he came through on the other side of that. And 2 years ago, last season, technically still last season, I guess, scored 20 goals, still had that, that pop in him, still had, the ability to score. And he's been in the kind of role that he's playing now, he's been in for a few seasons now, but I mean, it's, now it's it's the on ice role where it's, be the forechecker, be the, guy that wins the pucks back, doing that stuff, and, score occasionally, but also the leader, the actual, he was a leader before, but, wearing the letters is a different kind of leader because, anytime something goes wrong, you're the guy out front of it. Not always when things go right are you the guy, facing the cameras, because usually then it's, whoever scored the goals or what have you. But
he's the guy in the locker room facing the scrum with you guys and you women in the locker room when the Sabres are playing like shit. He's the one who's going to take accountability and speak up to the men and the women in the media. Yep.
And he's, and he does a good job of that. He's able to really kind of ground things in a way that I think everybody's able to understand. There's, nobody in sports talks without cliches, but Kyle keeps it pretty real with everybody. I mean, there might be the occasional, you got to play full 60, hard on pucks, that kind of stuff occasionally, because, it's an 82 game season. You're going to get tired of answering some of the same questions over and over. But when there's been a big moment, when there's been a big opportunity for his voice to be heard, to be, for us to hear it anyways, for anything that might be going on in the room or in the community, he's right on it. He is on top of that. And he is made it very abundantly clear. He's the guy. He
was sensational last year with Tops, roughly a year ago, man. He was really at the forefront with the organization when it came to that. All right. So he's back here now, Joe, and on the ice, probably the same role, right? Like that fourth line guy that you need. You see him having that same role. Do you see potentially, I don't know why, because of different types of players, but Greg Anderson was here, got him in a leadership, mentorship role. Wasn't expected to play a lot. Is Kyle still going to be do you expect him now that he's re-signed? Which, by the way, with the money, my quick thought on that is this. Some people said maybe they've overpaid a little bit more than they needed to. Maybe so, but I also feel like, to the Sabres' credit, number one, they're not going to spend to the cap no matter what. That's, you know what I mean? You're kind of rewarding a guy for being around, for being a good leader. You're giving him a little bit of a reward. I think that sends the right message to the locker room. I think that might send a good message around the league to potential free agents that, hey, we're going to take care of our guys. You know what I mean? So I got no problem at all with the contract. In terms of his role, pretty much, do you expect it to be what it was last year? Or do you expect maybe to he might be in the press box next to you a couple times watching some games? What do you think his immediate future lies here with the team?
I think a lot of that's still kind of up in the air. Depending on how the rest of because to me, Kyle's spot on the team was never in question. I think that spot on that line is his.
Mhm.
How they want to work in some of the, whether they choose to work in some of these, these young guys on the way up or not, or how, other moves that are to come or not during the summer, whatever happens there. I think his spot is pretty secure because nobody else really on the roster right now, aside from, Zemgus, and Zemgus might not even be around, much longer. Who knows? I mean, we don't know with him. He's a free agent. So, he might be gone. He might come back. Who knows? But I do know that there are some guys that are playing in the Calder Cup playoffs right now that are going to make it really hard to keep them in Rochester again next season.
Sure.
And not necessarily guys that are going to be playing that kind of role either. But you have a finite number of spots on the roster as well, and a finite number of spots among the forwards where you're going to put guys in, and a lot of those spots are taken up. So if he's in a spot where he sits out occasionally, I think it might be just to give a guy a breather.
Load management,
right?
Like in the NBA, what they do all the time,
Yeah.
which I hate that shit. But
Yeah, the way the NBA does it is kind of
it's
gross,
brutal.
But
Sure.
but I think with him now that he's not making $7 million a year, I think it's a little easier to be like, hey man, take a night off. Let's just keep the legs fresh. We're gonna need you for those hard games late in the year. Gonna need you for those playoff games. We want to make sure you're at tip top shape.
Mhm.
Whereas there's a lot of pressure when you're making big money to be in, not only be in there every game, but to produce every game. Whereas, a guy making $2.5 million to play those hard minutes, the physical game, the kind of game that he likes that he enjoys to play now. You can better use that load management in that case. Whereas if it's a guy making what he was making before, it's like, boy, like how do you can't keep that guy out of the lineup because he makes too much money. Now
Right.
it's the case.
Sure. I want to get to a couple other things. I'll wrap Kyle Okposo up, and again, make sure we give him his flowers here.
Yes.
If you would have told me 3 years ago that not only would the Sabres not trade Okposo, or not only would they not buy his contract out to get him out of here, that he would have played his entire contract and got re-signed a good month, 6 weeks before free agency even starts, I would have said you're nuts.
Yeah.
So good on him, man. I'm very happy for him, man. And I hope a lot of he's gonna be one of those guys 15, 20 years from now. There's a handful of Sabre players that are always welcome in Buffalo. They're always treated very well and spoken very fondly of. I think Kyle Okposo 100%. He'll be one of those guys. So good for him, man.
Absolutely.
Quickly here, because we can't really get into the game, because again, the timing, we're taping this Thursday. In fact, they're playing as we're taping this. Rochester is up 1-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals against Hershey. Again, as we tape this, can't really talk about the game because we're talking about, we're doing a podcast right now. I guess the only thing I wanted to ask you, maybe next week, we'll have some, we'll be able to talk more about how this series is gone or is going. But Matthew Savoy practices with the team earlier this week, and he's playing in game 2. And again, I don't know what happens, how much he's playing, what he did, good or bad during this game, because we're taping it before, but that's a pretty significant. Do you think that's a pretty significant development that Savoy's already in this lineup? Surprised at all?
No, not surprised. Well, maybe for game 2, I'm surprised. Because the way Seth Appert was saying is like, once we get him acclimated, he'll be in the lineup. Like he's not here to just kind of skate around. Like that was what was intimated basically to us when he practiced before they headed to Hershey. But game 2, I guess I am a little surprised, just because I figured game 3 it would have been an automatic thing. But I think they wanted to see how the matchups worked and see how things worked out with what Hershey was showing them in game 1. And I think what Hershey showed them in game 1 was they don't have the speed to keep up, and a guy like Savoy has a lot of speed to play with. And I think that allow them to feel a little bit more comfortable. Plus, you can work him in and out of shifts. Like, he doesn't have to take that shift every go. Like, that's fine. But I am a little surprised. But I mean, geez, he's a great player. He had a monster second half in junior hockey. So when you've got another weapon, it helps to have it out there. And I think, given what Hershey showed them about how they struggled to keep up with the Amherst, having another guy that is also quick and can also score a lot and can take care of business that way, it makes sense. But to say I would have seen it this early, I'd be a liar if I said that I would have thought game 2 would have been his time. But yeah, I figured that once they assigned him to Rochester, it wasn't going to be too long. But yeah, just a matter of a few days. Yeah, it's a little surprising.
I'll tell you, man. Game 3 in Rochester, I believe, is already sold out, and game 4 is game 3 Saturday. Game 4 is next Monday. I wouldn't hate my life if I end up in Rochester to go see one of those games. I've never
want to buy your tickets now for game 4.
I'll find a way in. I'll bullshit my way in. I'll name drop you or somebody. I'll give myself a little credential or something.
That won't help you. I'll tell you that right now.
It's funny. I'm thinking in my mind, I've actually never watched a Rochester Amherst game there. I've been to that arena twice in my life. One was for, and this is, God, I'm going back 20 some years. Because I remember, because like they were literally the worst seats in the arena. Wrestling. It was a WWE house show. And I remember it was Good Guy Rock against Bad Guy Kane. I mean, that might have been like the main event. So I kind of was there for wrestling once. And then, don't tell anyone I told you this, but I went to watch the American Idol tour. Like, God, it's got to be a good 15 years ago. I remember Chris Daughtry didn't win, but he was the biggest star from that season. I remember Chris Daughtry was one of the performers. So anyway, those are the 2 times I've ever been there. But that'll be exciting. It's good for people, Sabres fans, the whole organization, and especially people in that Rochester area. This is an exciting time. So it should be fun on Saturday and Monday as well. That's what I wanted to ask you, man. Big Detroit Lions fan, obviously. We didn't talk about this. I don't think we talked about this last week. Or maybe we did. I don't remember. Dude, I can't remember shit anymore. But your Detroit Lions are playing, they're kicking off the season, man. That's a big deal. They're at Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to tell me, the sacrificial lambs and this stuff. I don't care what you tell me. That to me is a big deal to think of an organization enough to say, because you always want to get it right in week 1. You want to get 2 good teams. It's always 2 good teams. And the fact that the Detroit Lions, I mean, the Bills are going to Kansas City. Philly's going to Kansas City this year. There's big time marquee games. The league said, you know what? We're good with the Detroit Lions opening up the season Thursday Night Football in Kansas City, man.
We did get into it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, listen, it's cool. I'll relent a little bit. It's cool.
You can have nice things, Joe. It's okay, buddy. You're a Lions fan. You can have some nice things.
When they lose by 35 to Kansas City on opening night, then
I hope
I'll teach you another lesson about nice things. But no, I mean, it's cool, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I keep saying to you, talk's cheap. Like stuff like this is cheap. Like, it's a cheap thrill. Like, great, cool. I'm a very uncomfortable person with nice things happening or good things occurring around this team, just because the rug's been pulled out repeatedly. Like, it's been pulled out so many times, I don't walk on the rug anymore. I'm just kind of like, I know where that's going. It's getting ripped right out from under my feet. Now, mind you, just because teams I do like, there are parallels, like right over my shoulder here, I've got a Newcastle United scarf. Newcastle, if for those who don't know soccer, Newcastle is, if you're going to compare it to an NFL team, they're a conglomeration of the Bills, Browns, Lions, like that triumph.
They haven't won anything.
They haven't won anything since the 50s. but like they just qualified for the Champions League next year, which is, the top teams of every division in Europe, plays for the biggest, basically playing for the championship of professional soccer in Europe. And they qualified for it because they're going to finish in the top 4. It's the first time they've qualified for it since 2002, 2003. So it's been 20 years.
Wow.
Which it's about like, just comparing it with some of those, some of those NFL teams, like, the Lions haven't won a playoff game since 1992. Cool. Yeah. That was the last time they won a play. They beat Dallas 38-3. Cleveland hasn't done anything in their life. Buffalo finally just started getting back in the playoffs and winning playoff games again in the last, 5 years, 6 years. So but like I made sure to watch the end of that game the other day, where they, if they got a draw, if they tied or they won, they would have locked down a top 4 spot. So I watched it, made sure to watch it, because I'm like, well, if they're going to do this, I got to see how this goes, even though I turn into a nervous person. So they tied it, and I'm watching, I'm just like, wow. Okay. And like, I'm not doing like cartwheels or anything. I'm just kind of like, wow. All right. They did it. I was out watching it someplace, and bartender's just like, aren't you happy? And I go, I'm ecstatic. I just don't know how to express that right now. Like, it's a very exciting, fun thing for this team that I've been rooting for the last 25 years or
Sure.
whatever. But like, I don't know how to process that. Like, if the Lions got back to the playoffs this year and won a playoff game by hell freezing over, I wouldn't know how to handle that. I'd be a disaster to watch that game with. I wouldn't like. Every bit of like anxiety comes out watching the Lions. Like, I mean, like last season, they opened last season with Philly, right? And it was like, oh, they might be a better team this year. They're gonna be pretty good. And then, watching Jared Goff throw pick sixes to guys that are, wide open, guys that are wide open on the sideline. And I go, that's enough. Like, as soon as that pick six got thrown and it was like 21-7, and I'm like, okay, I see how this is going to go this season.
Your boy had a good year, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, he did. But like, I was like, all right, well, I've seen enough. That's enough for now. We'll catch it. We'll catch up if there's need to catch up again. And then there wasn't need to catch up again until like halfway through the season, because they were shit for half the year.
I got to start watching soccer. The only I've never gotten into one in my life. The only soccer I watch right now was when I watched Ted Lasso.
Yeah,
it's a TV show.
That's great. It's a great show. I haven't watched any of this season yet, so
you got to. It's not officially.
I have a group of friends that I watch with that, like, we get together and we will watch them, and we just haven't done that yet because we like pull the TV outside, watch outside, have beers and whatever. So
such a wholesome show, man. It reminds me so much. Not the same kind of storylines, but it reminds me a lot of Schitt's Creek, and I was a big Schitt's Creek fan. Next week is the finale. They're saying officially it's not over, but it is over. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, you got to watch that last season.
If you want to have a really interesting soccer experience, come out on Sunday morning. Sunday morning is the last day of the Premier League season. So everybody plays at the same time.
Where do you guys is there like a go-to spot in Buffalo where a lot of soccer fans converge to watch these games?
There are a couple of them. There's one that I prefer more than the other, and it's not for nonsense. It's more because it's a little slightly closer for me, but I usually go to the Banshee downtown.
Okay.
It's what used to be Darcy McGee's.
Oh, okay.
That seems to be like Banshee. Where the hell is that? Darcy.
The old Darcy's.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yep,
right.
Yep.
But that's become like the place where, there's a tiny collective of Newcastle guys of us that go watch. The Buffalo Spurs group goes to watch there. There's a large number of Liverpool fans that go. It's becoming a bigger and bigger spot. During the World Cup, it was a huge spot for everybody to go watch games at. But all the games tip off at 11:30 on the last day of the season to avoid any possible tanking out or because there's promotion and relegate. Well, there's relegation spots on the line, but there's also I didn't see how the game ended today, because there could be one Champions League spot on the line depending. No, there won't be. So never mind that. But like
In 30 seconds or less, Joe, explain to me like I'm 5 years old, because I've heard of it because of Ted
Yeah.
Lasso. You're in a league.
Mhm.
When you get relegated, that means you're still playing, but you're not playing for anything meaningful. Is that what being relegated is?
No. So the bottom 3 teams at the end of the year in the Premier League get sent down to the next league.
They're like the minors then.
You get demoted to the next league down. It's
So
not minors. They're all professional teams. It's just the Premier League is where all the money is.
Okay, well, technically the USFL is professional football. So let's say the Bills were one of the 3 worst teams. They would get relegated to like the CFL or to the USFL. Is it kind of along those same lines?
If you want to do a parallel, it would be like like the 3 worst NFL teams getting sent down to the USFL or the XFL, and then the top 3 USFL or XFL teams would go up to the NFL.
Okay.
That's what it's a very foreign thing for any North American sports to do. Like, it's just not something that happens.
Yeah,
it's only something that happens with European sports, really, because it happens in hockey. Hockey happens in soccer.
I'd hate to be a big fan and live or follow a team that's relegated. Like, what motivates you? I'm gonna go watch the Rump League?
Well, Newcastle's gotten sent down twice in the last 15 years, and I'll tell you, it's not as fun. It's not as fun because it's not the same rivalries. It's not any of this. It's not the same matchups. It's harder to find the games to watch. Although ESPN Plus makes it a little easier to watch the championship. English Championship is technically the second league, which sounds goofy compared to the Premier League. Whatever. It's just stupid stuff, but whatever. It's harder. It's a lot harder to watch your team, but they're your team, so you're just like, I'm with them. This really sucks right now. So you just got to hope that they win their way back up. Fortunately, in Newcastle's 2 times that I watched them go down, they won their way back up immediately. Like the next season, they were right back. But it's a year, and essentially, you want to call it purgatory, but it's not, because it can get worse. Because if your team loses, they go down. They end up in the bottom 3 or 4 of the next level. They go down again, and they can fall levels down if they don't
end up in the Arena League playing like Albany or something like that.
They would end up playing in like not even the arena football, like the major indoor football league, where we're playing in Huntsville, Alabama this week, guys.
That shit sucks, but I would understand then why the game.
It's a very life or death thing, man. Like, I mean, like what the first season of Ted Lasso kind of highlighted some of that, where the demotion, the promotion demotion thing, but but it's hard though, because I mean, it happens in other sports in Europe too. Like, it happens in hockey. I think it happens in pro basketball there too, I think. But every team, like, there's no minor league system, but it's everybody's professional. It's just varying levels of how much money you get, because if you're in the Premier League, that's like an automatic $300 million for a team.
I was just going to say that. I'm thinking in my mind, because 5 minutes ago, I was just talking about it must suck being a fan. It probably sucks a hell of a lot worse if you have a financial stake in a team and you're getting demoted to a league. I'm sure you're going to lose a shitload of money.
It's
playing for millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, man. That I could see owners not being very friendly.
Yeah. And that's the thing where, like, a lot of sports fans here will be like, well, there's no playoffs over there. And I go, well, no, they have like in-league, they have like in-season tournaments and shit. They're like, what the hell's the point of that? And I go, well, if you make Champions League, then it's worth like another extra few $100 million, because it's a big deal. I mean, that's every big, huge team in Europe plays against each other. And like, it's like a World Cup type setup, but it's just all club teams, and they're all like the best in the world. So it's a whole thing, man. Europe's a different world for 8,000 different reasons, but the way they do stuff with soccer it's something else. And like when you see shots of fans of their team, is like their team's getting relegated, and the fans are just like, look like they got their dog ran over, and then whoever hit their dog backed up and ran over it again. That's what it's like, because your team goes down, you don't know if they're coming back.
Well, one of the few things I do know about soccer is that I know how passionate fans around the world are. Mm-hmm. And outside of America, I'm sure I've heard this, but it's like probably the most popular sport in the world, right? Outside of America?
Yeah. in a very big way, yes.
So the season's ending. When does the season start again? Because I'm gonna tell you what, during the off season, I'm gonna look at teams. I'm gonna study the cities or what. I'm gonna find a team And come next season, I'm going to become a soccer fan for the first time in my life. Never watched the shit, made fun of people who watch it. In fact, Joe Buffalo wins. Part of the reason why I won't watch it is because like he's such a big soccer fan, and I don't like anything that he likes. So I'm like, he likes his shit, so I know I'm not gonna like it.
He's a new to the table Liverpool fan. So that's a reason to be like, I ain't gonna listen to that guy. But
that's what I'm saying. I'm going to look at all the teams, and I don't know any of the teams, but I'm gonna look at the cities, I'm gonna look at their colors, I'm gonna look at their names, and I'm gonna find a team to root for. So this is the end of the season, right? Now?
Right. So the season ends Sunday, the 28th. The next season begins like the first weekend of August, the first week of August.
I'm in.
So you've got like 2 months.
I'm in.
You got 2 months. You got 2 months to figure it out. And like, I'm going to Philadelphia in July to see Newcastle. Like they're having two different games in Philadelphia. They're doing a whole like East Coast tour of like a bunch of teams from the Premier League that are be playing games. Newcastle's playing in Philadelphia in July, and I'm going down for that game. Like myself and a few of our other Buffalo guys are going down there for that. So it's gonna be fun. Like there's 2 different games happening like that day, so it's gonna be a lot of fun, but it's gonna be hot as shit. And like Newcastle's colors are black and white, so it's like gonna sweat my ass off out there.
That's gonna be I'm in. When the new season starts, I'm in. I cannot believe I just unexpectedly went down a soccer rabbit hole.
I'm telling you right now, come out Sunday morning if you can. If you got any free time Sunday morning, come to Banshee.
Sunday morning, 11:30 Banshee.
Yep.
Shout out Banshee.
There'll be a lot of people there, but like it'll be a good, like everybody will be kind of like fractioned off with their, because there's a ton of TVs. So
I'm gonna wear the most neutral thing. I'm gonna wear the most neutral colored outfit, or
you might think it's neutral. Some team will have those colors.
That's what I'm trying to avoid. We'll see though, but maybe I will, man. Real quickly before we get out of here. So OTAs are going on this week. I just did a show with Aaron Quinn 2 days ago. We both say the same thing. OTAs are stupid. In fact, we kind of made fun. Some people, we highlighted a couple tweets of people who would take the shit too serious based on OTAs, like Josh Allen throws a bad pass. Oh, that elbow must still be bad. Or, Spencer Brown looks really good in shorts. There he is. There's the all-pro right tackle that we're expecting him to become. Things like that. We're having some fun with it. I know you're busy anyway, covering hockey, writing and everything. You're not really paying any attention to OTAs, are you?
Absolutely zero. Don't care. Listen, it's all for attention. It's all part of the NFL news. Like this is my conspiracy theory nonsense thing with it. It's all for the NFL news cycle to stay fresh constantly, so that there's always something to talk. I don't care if a guy's not there. I don't show up in July. I don't give a shit. Just be there at camp. I don't.
If you're a Bills fan, you don't give a shit that Stephon Diggs is not there. I don't.
No.
Zero.
Everything else is distractions. It's drama. Like everybody's been dissecting him screaming at Allen on the sideline for the last few, like since the game ended, basically. So it's all drama. It's whatever. Like Allen's is busy out living the bachelor life, like just going to whatever sporting event he can get his hands on to go.
He is, and that was the other thing too. That was another
reconvene in July, man. Like just whatever.
We were talking about that too. Yeah, Josh looks bad in practice. He's not focused. He doesn't care, man. This guy's on the golf course every day. He's going to Toronto, take batting practice. He doesn't care anymore. He's more concerned about baseball and golf and being a bachelor right now. Just funny shit. One more quick question about the NFL, and we're out of here. You just talked about it. The NFL, the biggest news cycle. They always got to be in the news cycle. They're the one sport right now, like in hockey, you have the draft lottery. And that is such a big deal, especially when a guy like Connor Bedard comes out or Connor McDavid, a couple of years ago. That's a big ass deal, and teams tank for them. Ditto in the NBA. This year was all about taking for the kid from France, a 7'4" kid. Every handful of years, you get a prospect like that. Are you surprised that the NFL hasn't? And do you expect them at some point to say, let's just say Detroit's in contention for the worst record in the NFL, and Arizona and Houston, whoever it may be, instead of automatically giving that team the first pick like it is right now? Could you see a scenario where in the NFL, maybe the bottom 6 teams, or maybe even every non-playoff team, has some kind of formula percentage, and then the NFL, because I guess they don't have enough dominant news cycles, they'll have a period where they leads up to a draft lottery? I could see it, man. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, to be honest with you.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened also. But I think there's also there's fewer guarantees with football just because so much of it is right guy with the right system. Now, sometimes
Agreed.
you have some players that are just like out of this world, incredibly good that you're like, well, no matter what team they go to, they're going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
But for every time you think that, there's a Jamarcus Russell or, somebody else where you're like, man, this guy's going to be a home run. He's going to be a beast. And then it just doesn't work. Like, it just flat out doesn't work for XYZ reasons. I mean, good teams stay good. People get on like it's always the same teams. I'm like, well, yeah, because they have the right systems in place and they know how to get shit done. Like, that's why the same teams keep showing up in the playoffs and in the and deep in the playoffs all the time because they know how to do it. They know what they're doing. Especially like teams that have been doing it forever. Like they find a way. They get back. They might fall out of the picture for a while, but they get back to it. Bad teams stay bad for a reason. It's because they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you.
You can put the greatest player on earth someplace, and it's happened to Detroit twice, and they don't do anything with it, and it just doesn't matter. And they didn't even pick number 1 overall to make it happen either. Like, it just sometimes you get an elite talent that falls in your lap, and you're like, hey, great, cool. And then even that doesn't work.
I agree with your theory 100%. The right fit, the right player, the right team. Point being, though, is that I'm just surprised that the league hasn't found a reason to do this. Not maybe even necessarily to prevent taking, but just to have another big event. Like the NFL draft is such a big event. I would bet money that, like next year, for an example, this year there wasn't really a big consensus. We didn't even know until the draft started who's going to be the number 1 pick. Next year, Caleb Williams is the guy, the USC quarterback. Their teams are going to try to tank for him. It's a big deal. Just whoever gets him, I'm just surprised that the NFL hasn't said we're going to take all the non-playoff teams or the bottom 10, or you can move up like hockey. The Sabres could have moved up 10 spots conceivably. Something like that. I'm surprised that the NFL hasn't done something like that. Not even for competitive purposes, just for, again, to stay on top of the news cycle and just have another big NFL event. Surprised they haven't done that yet.
I think it's because they don't want to distract from their own playoffs too. Like NHL and NBA are just kind of like, it's in addition to, plus those seasons are 80 games long. NFL season's 17 games.
Yeah.
If you tank a 17 game season, you have to be bad immediately out of the gate and then have zero luck. Like that's even the teams that have gone, like the Cleveland team that went 0-16, the Detroit 0-16 teams. Those teams were bad, but like they weren't 0-16 bad. They ended up being 0-16 bad. But the talent on those teams didn't say that they should have been 0-16, just shit luck. A bad team in general, but like bad team in general, bad luck, bad, just everything going against you in one season. Just, that's what happened. Sometimes good teams make the playoffs, or I'm sorry, bad teams make the playoffs and they have no business being there, but they did anyways, because either they're in a bad division or they just lucked out, they win 9 games. They lucked out in 5 of them. And you're just like, wow, I can't believe these guys are here. It's like, well, they are. So them's the breaks. It's the closest thing to like a fantasy sports result as you can get, where it's sometimes just dumb, stupid luck is on your side every week.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to happen someday. We'll see. By the way, I know you don't watch wrestling that much anymore. Pretty big weekend for wrestling fans, though, man. So you got Saturday afternoon. You got WWE Night of Champions. It's in Saudi Arabia. I know you're not. Yeah, I know you've been watching. But Sunday night is AEW.
I'll be.
They got a pay-per-view, Double or Nothing.
We'll be watching that.
You got a good Sunday ahead of you for sure, man. You got Banshee and then AEW on Sunday.
Banshee, I've got a party to go to Sunday afternoon. And then
it's a long day.
So it's going to be a long day.
Holiday weekend, though.
Plus, Saturday, I'm going to be in Rochester for Amerks Bears Game 3. And then Monday, I'll be in Rochester for Amerks Bears Game 4. So
they're not on, as of now, they're not on MSG. I know games 1 and 2 are on MSG. I haven't heard anything about the Rochester games being there, which Saturday's game is sold out. I did see that on Twitter.
I think games 1 and 2 are on there because some station in Hershey was carrying. I think like some Fox station in the Hershey area was carrying it, so they were able to get the broadcast, ferreted out here. But like, nobody locally carries Amerks games. Nobody in Rochester, nobody in Buffalo. I can't imagine that MSG Buffalo would suddenly just drop everything and get a truck out there and do the game. It'd be cool if they did, but like, I don't know, maybe you put Don Stevens and Duffer's call over top of like the scoreboard video or something like that. I don't know. I mean, if you want to do a makeshift way to do it, that's the way to do it. But I'm sure that even takes a lot of effort.
Sure. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. It really helps us grow the show. Of course, if you're listening on the audio side, make sure you are following on Spotify or Apple or whatever it is where you listen to your podcast. Make sure you follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Yerdon. Go check out notedhockey.com. $5 per month, $50 per year. That is Joe's baby. Works very hard at it. As for the show, we'll see. Normally, like I said, Joe typically we tape on Mondays and then Joe is on every Tuesday. However, Rochester's playing next Monday. So follow me on Twitter at Moran Tweets. And when Joe and I have time, when Joe has the time, we'll get together. So we'll certainly drop a show. I'm looking forward to having some Rochester hockey to talk about. Again, only one game. Game 2's going on right now. So, we'll see how things play out. Thanks as always, man. Good to have you on the show, Joe.
Always happy to do it, dude. It's always a fun time.